The story of any city can never be complete without the story of its music. Music City, y'all. Welcome.
My cousin acted that shoe, y'all. That's him.
Yo, what's up? This is Garfield Bright, Music City. The first episode is here in NYC, New York. And yo, any history of any city first has to start with its musical template. And why would New York City be any different? As a matter of fact, I'm standing in front of the world famous Apollo Theater, right? Opened up in 1914, but was not always called the Apollo Theater. When the Apollo first opened in 1914, it was leased out by Hertig and Seaman. They got a 30-year lease on the place. And they opened it as a burlesque club. You know, it was a white establishment. New York hadn't quite grown to be the black place that it was ultimately going to be. And so, of course, there was no admittance for black people, even in New York, in the North, in a spot like the Apollo Theater. But after the 30-year lease, somewhere around the 28th year of the 30th year lease, LaGuardia, the infamous, famous mayor of New York City, shut down the Apollo pretty much in effect because he had the anti-burlesque campaign going. You know, they wanted to make the city a different kind of mold, and that burlesque piece was inviting a lot of, you know, especially like on Broadway and places like that, a lot of the hookers and prostitutes or workers, as we would call them, were kind of like keeping people, the same way they're using gentrification now to get the element out of the community, that's the black element, so the people can come in and invest. It was the same kind of dynamic then with the burlesque and those kinds of like customs. They want to change the culture. So LaGuardia comes in, changes it, shuts it down, but it reopens in 1934 under Cohen was the original owner. And in lieu of the fact that there was a burgeoning, you know, African American influx to the city like Chicago and New York and stuff like that for the industrial pretty much piece, black people can get jobs, they renamed it the 125th Street Apollo Theater. And it catered to the black. They came out with the variety show format, and it was on. Many of the greats that we recognize in black music, in all genres of music, including yours truly and the group SHAI, performed at this Apollo Theater. I mean, even little Lauryn Hill, people like that have performed. The Sarah Vaughan, all of that, John Coltrane, Miles Davis. You can go Luther Vandross, Prince even. I mean, you can go all the way even further than that, like some of the, you know, Count Basie and the original pioneers contributed much to this space. But ultimately, even that dimmed down. Percy Sutton was a famous person. He he took over ownership in 1981 of the Apollo Theater. And that was a big move, a power move, because a black man took over ownership. And they ended up creating a recording studio and a film studio within the spot and reopened the amateur night again. And so, you know, for all those years with Kiki Shepard and rubbing the little wooden piece and Sandman, bringing us countless moments of just joy and laughter, no format was ever quite pulled off like the Apollo Theater. It never will be. And it's one of the hallmarks of New York City. And when you talk about music, you can't talk about New York City and not mention the Apollo Theater. SHAI, we even got a chance to come here and do a tribute to the greats. We got to do a tribute to the Ink Spots. And we were here singing Java Jive, you know.
I love the Java Jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
Go ahead, boy.
Oh, Boston beans.
All right.
Soybeans.
Yeah.
Green beans. I said a cabbage and green. See, I'm not keen over bought up bean. Unless it is the silly bean, boy.
And so in 1934, when the amateur night first opened up, I want to expand a little bit to just give you an idea of what was going on in the world. I mean, in 1934, we had the first Masters golf tournament. Think about that, Masters, the implications of that first of all, but we had the first Masters golf tournament. In 1934 also, like in Austin, Texas, we had the first laundromat being developed. Think about that. We also had like residuals from the Great Depression, and we had the big dust bowls going across the country. That people were starving, and famine was rampant. But more prominent and probably more pertinent to New York City that I stand in is when Master Farah Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad got together, and he was a student. You know, the Nation of Islam was up and running with Honorable Elijah Muhammad being the first one who was raised. And that was prominent because what that ultimately spawned is the 5%, you know, of Nation of Gods and Earth, which Clarence 13X was, you know, they call him the father, Allah the father in that movement. And hip hop that coming out of New York would not have been as impactful as it probably was without the influence of the 5%ers. You know, you got Big Daddy Kane, you got Rakim Allah, you got a plethora of people who, you know, the brand Nubians. You got so many people, even in the Zulu Nation, who subscribe to the 5% philosophy. And that style of mentality and that style of MC with the teachers and the consciousness, you know, coming out of New York, you know, created the push and the thrust for the type of early hip hop that we heard, the conscious hip hop. It came out of that mold, and I can't even imagine what hip hop would have been without the Nation, without the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's influence and Master Farah Muhammad's influence through the Clarence 13X piece, tangent of it, through the Wu-Tang Clan and people like that who were 5%, part of the 5% Nation of Islam. So all of that 1934 stuff was rich, and ultimately in 2017 I can stand here saying that I'm greatly influenced by that year, 1934, and one of the residual icons that came out of it. We're looking at the Apollo, y'all. Never sleep on your history. This is New York, but this is a worldwide thing that's affected. Apollo. Music City, y'all.
I